Hello. So today for our Myths and Politics series, we welcome Marika Strano, who graduated a year ago from the University for Foreigners at Perugia in Italy. She is working on modern philology normally, and also about the reception of myth in Italian, English, and Irish literature from the 19th and 20th century. Can you tell us a little bit about the paper you presented to us today?
Of course, thank you, Thomas, and good evening. The main aim of my proposal was to understand if ancient myth, but also modern myth, can be a symbol of democracy, and if an apparently rambling and everyday man like Leopold can be a symbol of openness to the otherness that surrounds him. As Fritz Sen wrote in his essay, Joyce of Impossibilities, there is anything wrong in all possible readings we give to our work, an important work, a classic. I think there's nothing more democratic and open to otherness that ancient myth and modern myth. This fact, I think, may confuse the readers, but actually, why the main question could be why a work, a literary work, should provide answers. If, like Ulysses, but not only James Joyce Ulysses or Homer's Ulysses, but also like Dante's Ulysses, we are the first to ask ourselves infinite questions, and we have the desire to discover infinite and endless spaces, Giacomo Leopardi, the name was the same, would say in the infinite. So every man and woman on earth is like Joyce Odysseus, but also like Homer's Odysseus. We can't resist to the desire to live again, to discover infinite realities. So the democracy of the myth, in my opinion, but of classics in general, can be also seen through many translations that our work itself can have. Because another question can be why we should have several versions, translations of the same masterpiece. So the question for me is that in our work, in a literary work, we have always different voices, and we can interpret and translate our work in many different ways. So there is nothing more democratic than the infinity of voices we have in our work. So another question could be are myths, ancient myths, still actual? And the answer, in my opinion, is yes, because Joyce wrote his works at the beginning of 19th, but they are actual. The Odyssey, the Aeneid are actual because they talk. I'm pronouncing Ulysses and not Ulysses, like the right pronunciation, because Ulysses is about you, is about all of us, as my professor Enrico Terrinoni says many times. So he is the translator of Ulysses and Finnegan's Wake with Fabio Pedone. So for me, that is an important voice to be always remembered. Every hero goes to a another land, to a stranger land, but he, as James Joyce say, when I go to another land, I discover always myself. So I meet the otherness, but always meeting myself. And if we don't understand the otherness, how can we know ourselves, that we are strangers to our own? So for me, this is an important point of classics, and this is like a bridge that this is the main bridge that between classics and moderns. So I tried also, of course, to discover James Joyce's principal sources, and I discovered that not only Homer was the main, of course, source of James Joyce, but we find also Egemon of Cyrene, but we find also Aeneid's, Virgil's Aeneid. We found Butler, Perard, we find Francis Bacon, and this is only the starting point of my research. So I really hope to tell you that I will find something other, but I'm pretty optimistic. So I'm fearful, but I'm optimistic.
Thanks so much for this. I mean, it was a fascinating paper. So what did actually lead you to researching this, and how does that fit in with your more general research interests?
Yeah, this is, I think, the most terrible question you can ask to a Joycean, because yes, why? The question is always, why James Joyce? You know, you're classicists, so you know, Latin, Greek is are something complicated, but they asked me why James Joyce, and I will answer to this question that James Joyce is able to read my soul. Yes, it's a romantic answer to the question, but yes, I am romantic. Let us be romantic. So yes, because James Joyce is a peregrinations, and peregrinations of Leopold Bloom are able to speak directly to us, to all of us, and this multiplicity of voices that James Joyce has in his works reminds me of the multiplicity of voices of Homer, of Odysseus, and Virgil's Aeneid, and so on. But the first, I have to be honest with you, yes, I start reading Ulysses because the first reading, I didn't understand anything. So for me was the choice of impossibilities. But I said, okay, why a reader should be so obscure and live in the obscurity? And after a couple of days, this question was in my mind, and after that I said, okay, life is so complicated. Yes, I know I'm too philosophical, I'm too romantic. Yes, life is too difficult, but James Joyce gives me not only one way, one world. It doesn't open to me one world, but infinite, so multiple, aiuto, many worlds. So that is for me the most important thing of James Joyce.
Thank you very much. It was an absolutely fantastic paper, and I do promise you I will get on to reading both both the works that I promised to read. Thank you again for agreeing to speak today.
Thank you, really.
Yeah, thank you very much.